All right. Oh, hello.
I guess it's rolling.
You're rolling. Let me see.
Always wait till people come in,
Yeah.
I think that's all very cool.
Hello.
So we're going to speak, and if you guys can give a thumbs up that you can hear us, it'd be awesome.
Hello.
Can you hear us? No. Can you hear us? Thumbs up? You can hear us?
Marco!
Hello. Yeah, it seems like they can hear us.
Okay.
We're just going to give it a moment.
Alright. Oh, wow. Sup?
Sup, everybody?
Can you guys... Alright, cool. Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Gio. Alright. So, I'm gonna cut the formalities, but okay. What we're doing tonight is, well, you already saw the header, Alchemy and Story, or Hermes Forgot. The title of that, there's going to be something at the end of our live where we'll introduce and explain why that title. Yeah.
Special surprise.
Special surprise.
Yeah, so stay till the end to find out.
Yeah. So to start, I mean, we've been putting a fuck ton of work and wanting to organize this thing, cliff notes and stuff, but if you know me already, it's just, it goes the way that it wants to go anyway. So we've got a whole thing of lists and papers that you guys can't see, and I don't know if we're going to really follow them, but we're going to touch into everything. And basically, the whole purpose of this is it's an expression and a byproduct of what we've been experiencing in the lab. Not just a physical laboratory, working with the plants and the animals and the metals and the minerals, but also in the life laboratory and watching these things play out in our everyday lives. I know it's kind of catchy or interesting, Alchemy and Story, what Hermes Forgot. We were just talking about this. We actually been going at it for the last 24 hours.
And weeks,
It's been, yeah.
months.
And like
This is-
6 years of friendship.
Yeah, it's true. It's like been almost a decade, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, each and every single one of us has our own story as far as how we ended up here. Even though it looks different for every single one of us, we have been realizing as we've been preparing for this Instagram Live, the next Instagram Live, and everything else that we have planned in the future, we've been understanding how the alchemy and the story has been playing out in our lives. And the only way that we've been able to know this or notice this is because of our work with alchemy. And not necessarily alchemy in the sense of spiritual or magical expressions or practices, but in the actual laboratory work itself. And I am not someone that is a purist. I don't believe that alchemy in the laboratory is the only way. The thing is that for us, all the crazy shit that's come up to us throughout our lives, it seems like the one that makes the most sense is laboratory alchemy. But with the conversation of laboratory alchemy, there's a whole slew of things that you have to understand. And it's not just understanding the animal realms or understanding the plant realm or understanding the metal and mineral realms. Because even for myself, I've gotten not confused, but I've stepped back a bit, even in the lab a few times, and I've asked Like, what the fuck? Where is this
going on?
going? Yeah, where is this
What's
going?
going on?
What is the purpose? Why is this so expensive?
Why? Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
spending all my money to really go nowhere, but also understand?
Well, to really go inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going inside all you want, it's still money. It's still costing energy. It's not just the money part, right?
Physical
but that's one,
energy,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's an expenditure that's happening, and we weren't asking, like, what do we get back from this? We were asking, and we'll call each other. We'll go to each other's houses. We'll take psychedelics or ketamine and go into these ritual states to have these kind of conversations, which is like, where the fuck is this going? What's going on? Is it just to make plants be jerks so that we can, I don't know,
Well,
learn
I
something
think what
about
you're
it?
trying to say is that through all of these experiences, through the lab work and the inner work, there has been a component that's not really being talked about.
Mhm.
That, we've been through multiple classes together with different teachers. We study on our own, but there's still something missing, right?
Mm.
There's still something that needs to be discussed, and it's really the context. It's the story and how you make sense of what is actually happening.
And I think that, like, from my perspective, because I feel like I entered alchemy a little bit later in the game, and I live with an alchemist, so it was kind of inevitable that I started to pick it up. But that I've observed through a lot of the people in my field, they're doing a lot more spiritual alchemy. So they're doing kind of like the mental, or people say spiritual a lot, but in alchemical terms, spirituality is the mind. So it's like people operating from the mind, which, there's a non-physical etheric component, but it's still like attempting to think about the soul, right? And so being in your vicinity and actually doing the operation, and then being able to then circle back and actually apply it to story. And I guess, like, for me, I'm an actress, so I understand story script analysis, but then being able to see the patterns replicated. Like, you've always called yourself a bit of a hacker of the natural world. Like, understanding alchemical processes basically allows you to see the patterns that operate within everything. And then you understand everything. Or if you understand the single cause, then you understand all effects, right? So from my POV, I'm seeing a lot of this, but not a lot of this, but also no soul. And then I feel like for you guys, it's like, it's a lot of this, but also, like, I don't know how you would describe it. It's like maybe it's actually doing the lab work, but missing something about how we take that lens and then place it into a story, like place it into the psychology, like Jungian psychology. I know I have met Jungian psychologists and they've never done the actual lab process. And so I guess the intent is to, like, unify all of those things into one discussion.
And if it sounds like we don't know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
we do know what we're talking about. But the thing is that we're formulating the thing itself through conversation.
We're here to tell a story.
What happened?
And so we've been given, between the three of us, we've been granted so many pieces, so many secrets, so many ingredients, so many level up points, secret little mushrooms that make you grow bigger. In this game that we call life, that the thing that we're experiencing, the dream, there's so much data that we've been accruing within ourselves. And when I was saying that we go to each other's homes and we create these sacred, consecrated spaces to dialogue, because we want, what else is there to do, right? When you look into the world, you go to work, like, you're born, you're raised, you're told a name, a gender, and a religion maybe, or ethnicity, a skin color, all this shit, right? and the idea is you go then into school and get good grades, and make sure you get good grades, because those good grades will get you from elementary school to junior high school to high school to, a list of universities, if they accept you or not, And we've sat down. These guys are educated as far as, on paper. I'm not. I've dropped out 4 times already, because I'm like, this is kind of like Rick Sanchez. Like, this is amazing. They're not idiots. I'm not saying that, but this is like for idiots. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. Well, and what I meant by the idiot
I haven't thought about that.
What I meant by the idiot thing was, I've come to learn that it's not that people are idiots for going to school and all this stuff. It's that I got to see a different perspective of reality by not being indoctrinated into these belief systems of this is what defines you as a human being, even though no one's ever told you that. And for me, I wanted to understand something that I felt inside that no one's ever talked to me about. Whether it was the years in church, as an altar server, as an altar boy, asking the priest questions that would get me in trouble, or questions that I would ask in school that would get me in trouble. Like when I would bring up to professors, are you grading me based on my intelligence, or are you grading me based on how well I can memorize what you tell me and repeat it again? And it wasn't just the education system. It felt like life itself, to be accepted into a culture or a subculture or an ethnicity or gender. You needed to be able to repeat back the same things that everybody else agrees upon, and that's it. And my work with myself, since I was a child, before I even knew that this is what I was doing, was I'm curious about what is going on. Why, it's a series of questions. Why am I here? Well, what is here? And every question that I've ever asked, I always realized, I wound up realizing that I always asked It was always about me. Me and then the other thing. Why me and the other thing? Why am I here? What is the definition? But even if I don't ask what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? Who's the one that's asking the question? That's the one that I got interested in. And when I would talk to people about that, I hadn't refined it. And we're all still working towards refining. We're refining this thing as we speak right now. Who is the I that keeps speaking? And it wasn't until 21 times of LSD and this name Hermes Trismegistus came out of me. And then I had memories that, that's a whole other shit show. And I know that some of you guys that are watching know me, know us. Like, the crazy shit that I'm talking about.
But if there's some of you that don't know, we're all best friends and have been at this together for over 6 years. So this really, what we're presenting you today, is a culmination of our experience and the processes of transformation that we've been through together.
It's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, and I think, there's something you were saying about how you were not like anybody in your field. Like, you were basically thrust out. Like, I don't know if you've probably told your story before to your audience, but, you were not accepted in a conventional way by your parents or by loved ones or by the institution. But in a beautiful polarity, I feel like Kaylin and I, as much as we've been educated, it's for some reason you follow the checklist, but it doesn't work. It doesn't feel right. It feels like there's something wrong, there's something missing. So we've all ended up in the same exact place, regardless of, maybe living on the street or maybe going to a higher education. It doesn't really matter. The truth is the truth, and it somehow wants to come to the surface. So I don't know, I just wanted to share that.
Regardless of the background. Yeah. These guys right here, loving parents. I've met
no
their
problems.
mothers and fathers, lovely people. And if you guys are watching, I love you guys. I'm being honest about this. And I did not get
Very,
that.
very
You know what I mean?
privileged. Yes, very
Homes,
lucky.
apple pies and all that shit. Like,
Scholarships.
but it's just an example of how it doesn't matter. Like, there's something going on
Yeah.
that exceeds the performance itself.
Yeah.
And I was always curious about that because I have clients that call me and they want to have conversations with me so that I can help guide them through life stuff, as it were. And these people are wealthy as fuck, and I'm still figuring things out. And then, why are you contacting me? It's like, oh, because and within all of us, there's something that you have that can accelerate my development. There's something that I have that can accelerate your development.
So what then has been your redeeming factor, Raven?
That's not fair because I never looked up what was the word? The story. No, I just never looked up the what was the definition of redeeming? Because we were on ketamine and anyways, okay. Words are very important to me. Not very important, but I like words.
So would you say that this story has actually been your guide?
It's always been my guide. And it's story. I wasn't aware of story though. I read books. I love books, especially fiction, especially science fiction, right? Like, more intense the stories were, but story itself, I never thought of it like that. Just like the word truth, like the truth. We had a guy that taught us some stuff. We call him Lord Voldemort, but he taught us some stuff.
Who shall not be named.
We'll just name him Voldemort though. But that little dude basically introduced me to the word truth. We've all heard the word truth, right? But introduced me to the word truth in such a way, it fucked me up. Like, I was like, wait a minute. But it made sense. Because there was a time in New York City, this young lady and I took a lot of LSD, and we looked at each other telepathically, sat down in front of each other, and I said to her, you want to know what all of this is? And we sat lotus in front of each other, and my eyes opened up wider, and her eyes opened up wider as well, and we just gazed. We didn't say anything. We didn't think anything. I was like, okay, cool. This Lord Voldemort added a word to the experience that we had already had, which was the truth, right? Which is the I, right? I, or God, or the actuating cause, right? Or, I guess I'm going to just go into it now. The soul. It's the first principle of the three principles. And we all know, whether you're into alchemy or magic or even sex magic, spirituality, or like brotherhood shit, the three is really fucking powerful, right? Well, what are the three? You have your soul, which is your actuating cause, which is your essence, your essential oil. You have your spirit, which is your mind, it's intelligence, it's the Mercury, it's Hermes, right? And then you have the body, which is the salt, which is the stage. It's the environment. It's the experience itself. You are the experiencer, and the experience itself is the thing outside of yourself, right? I'm like, okay, cool. I actually forgot where I was going with that, but
It's all right.
So you
I
got
got
the one thing, right? Do we want to correspond it to story? Or no?
Yeah, I was just about to say, why don't we start with the definition of the story, and we can start breaking down the elements based on circling the square. So a story is defined as a narrative designed to interest, amuse, or instruct the listener or reader.
So the one thing decided to split itself, right? Because maybe it was a little, I don't want to say bored, it didn't have a quality, but
right.
it decided to
It just
split
could.
itself, right? It just could.
It's just the nature
Split
of
itself into two. And in the story terms, like for me, my immediate thought as an actor is your antagonist and your protagonist. So you got two dynamic energies, or like a positive and negative pole. They're kind of like dancing with each other, which creates movement. But the moment the one thing split into two, it created three, because you got the audience, you got the viewer, you got the observer. And so that one thing into two becomes three, which is the three principles, right? and that pervades every story. Like, I remember my acting teacher used to say, you don't have a scene if you don't have an audience. So don't forget you have an audience. And most of us forget. Like, we forget that we're performing a scene, right? At all times.
And I would also mention that never forget, though, that you are also the protagonist, the antagonist, the narrator, the writer. That you are
And
the
the
author,
audience.
and you are the audience
Yeah,
of your
observer.
own studio production, blah, of your own
pretty much
movie,
it
of
is.
your own
Your Broadway show.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it's a production when you start to become conscious of it.
because you're actually taking control of what you're writing, as opposed to allowing the unconscious stories to just run amok. It's like
Yeah, and before you take control or become an active participant into the thing, a director, a producer, a screenplay writer and stuff, you have to become aware. You have to become conscious. If you become conscious, you become aware. That's why all this whole thing that we're fucking doing right now, this is that thing, right? Because you just live, right? You repeat what everyone tells you. You agree upon things. That's not a bad thing. That's part of the actual game. It actually makes it more enthralling, way more captivating. Because if you came into this world knowing everything, the whole thing, you wouldn't play it. You have to
Pretend.
forget. You have to go through some sort of amnesia
Yeah.
so that
you
you
can remember.
believe it. If you believe it, if you believe the lie, if you believe the illusion, it's great. It's fucking working, kiddo. Like, it's really fucking happening. But if you know, think about the magic of being a child. Sure, we were gullible or whatever, but I don't think that there's something negative about that. That we were using imagination. I, mage, and nation. The mage is the magician, and the nation, your reality, the country, the world, the dream itself, right? So I'll speak on my own behalf. When I decided to come here, I made sure that when I crossed that threshold into the mind and the reality itself, that I forgot everything, which is, I only forgot one thing anyways. I forgot the thing, right? Wink, wink. I forgot the thing. So once I forget the thing, I am susceptible to anything. And that's great. That's magic.
Yeah.
But just like you guys remember the Matrix, the first Matrix, right? Neo gets unplugged and he's like puking up, looks like gruel, and then they plug him back in, and he's in that white space, and it's like whatever he thinks of, like rows and rows, like bookshelves of machine guns and shit. We can't do that as children, as infants. So it's way more entertaining for there to have already been a story designed, a reality. And that's what this thing about alchemy and story, what Hermes forgot. Well, let's stick to the alchemy and story part. What is a story? One of you guys wrote it down. What's a story?
Yeah, well, let's start breaking it down. So let's do the principle of the three.
The principle of the
The
three
three,
of the
yeah.
story, like the plot, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know, okay, so it's so funny because I've been studying marketing. So there's the status quo, there's the conflict, and there's the resolution. So there's like this.
For marketing?
Yeah, for marketing, they give you a 3-act structure in order to go, whoosh, like you get people hooked right away because our minds are designed to look, it's like a hide and seek peekaboo game. But one little thing I want to say is like with alchemy, with that lens, you're understanding nature, which is this kind of natural sine wave. It like rises and falls, or a spiral, or the Ouroboros. It's like the dragon eating its own tail. So the beauty of this lens is that there is no right and wrong. You're not going to get to some point and then you succeeded. Like you're going to go, cool, I'm going to forget again. Because forgetting means more, or remembering means more when you forgot. So then we just kind of repeat the cycle. So that's just something I wanted to add because I feel like that's unlike most modalities. It's this idea that eventually we're going to transcend, right? We're going to reach, we're going to be the master. But there is no I mean, the point is to do it again, you know?
And find it inside.
Yeah.
How do you know that you really want to transcend? Like, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, real quick, well, from my experience, like, you leave, bye-bye. But you're projecting this idea. There's a delusion that you've created in your head. Maybe you've been advanced enough and artistic enough and crafty enough to say, there's something else, and this is what it looks like. But I swear to fucking God, I bet you haven't. And you're like, no, I just want to transcend and ascend. And it's like, to what? Where? What? Do you even know what happens afterwards? What do you mean, transcend? When I die? Do you know what dying is? What is the polarity of dying? Alive? Do you know what it is to be alive? See, fucking words. Everything that we do, everything that our mind processes is just words. What are these words? These things, right? It's a sigil. I'm not going to get into the magical part of this. Because, anyway. It's, a word has a letter and another letter and another letter. Each letter is a symbol, a sigil, right? It's the equivalent of like an amulet, right? It's a talisman, right? Like it has power behind it. But it only has power because something gave that letter definition. It defined it. It gave it power, energy. A story. Da, 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 da. Each letter has its own story. When you take letters and you put them together to make what's called words, even more power, right? You then create a sentence to make a statement. I mean, it gets way more complex. Fractals.
Yeah, fractals, because we're breaking down.
I'm going to go pee.
Okay.
I think we should go more...
Sure, yeah, no, you can go
into
into
back around.
The structure of the three parts of a story, right? So there's,
so what if you don't know, right? Like, what if you don't really know what how to map the elements of a story to alchemy? Well, we're going to go through it all. So, with the principle of three, which in alchemy we have the mind, the body, and the soul. The corresponding elements of the story is the plot or the objective, which is the mind, the setting or the stage, which is the body, and the character, which is the soul.
And as an actor perspective, the objective can be broken into three, which is another fractal, which I would still correspond with body, mind, and soul, but the body being your action, the mind being your objective. Like, it's like the thing that you want as the character that's like persisting, and then there's your super objective. So often we're not aware of what our soul is guiding us to, and that's like sometimes where you may end up in a scenario where it's like either I have terrible luck or I have the best of luck, or I'm like literally being thrust into this situation or with this person, my relationship falls apart, my house burns down. Like, I can't control circumstances at a certain point, but as you come out the other side, you realize that it was like for you, like there was something to be gained or integrated. Like every good story, the character's usually not happy. There's usually something wrong. There's usually something missing, right? So this structure, obviously, I'm going farther out, but yes, like your objective, it's in your mind, right?
Well, it's really helpful as a contemplation tool, because if your life is in shambles and you have no direction, you have no idea what the fuck is going on, like you can sit here and take yourself out of the equation and then really start to think of your life as the story. So then at this point, you can identify the plot, you can identify the setting and the stage, and you can identify the character. But it goes even deeper than that, where we can break it into the four elements. So now we're going deeper into the center of things in the fractal universe, right?
And for those who don't know, you probably all know, but like a fractal is a repeating pattern. So like it's called KOCH, Cox triangle. Like you think of a triangle. On the outer edge, you get a triangle. And then those edges are a triangle. And eventually it looks like a snowflake. And it was simple one initial pattern. So if you get at the root cause, the core, then you understand all effects. So the purpose of alchemy is like when we understand these core archetypal universal energies, then you can kind of predict all things, whether it be a baseball game or you're going to court and you see, you know.
Yeah, it could really
Yeah.
help you solve problems in
Yeah.
that way. So by being an objective observer, you can kind of problem solve your life. And when you map it back to alchemy, it's just a really useful tool for a way to think about it. So the next step of this is really the 4 elements of the story, which the fire element being the introduction, which is the characters and the setting.
Status quo.
Status quo,
Where they
which
start.
we would map back to the intuition, right? The actuating cause. The era element would be the rising of the story, and that's when the events or the problems would occur, and that is the thought in alchemy.
That's creating tension. Like the mind creates stuff.
Like the problem is revealed, like the
Yeah.
quest or the purpose is revealed
Right.
at this stage.
Right.
The water element would be linked to emotion and the climax. So that's when the problem reaches a height, right? And then finally we have the falling, which is the earth element, where things become manifest and where the character actually takes action towards resolving the problem.
And then happily ever after, right?
And
Maybe.
then complete resolution, hopefully. But using these symbols and using these tools helps to give the mind context. Because if you can have a system or a map or a story that you really resonate with, and you can use these archetypes to figure out where you are, it helps give your mind concepts or context, and it helps you make sense of what the fuck is going on.
Right. And to understand yourself, really, like what is actually authentically resonating from your, not just your conscious mind, but maybe your soul or maybe your unconscious. Like maybe the different layers of the mind could actually come into alignment just by observing the patterns of your own life, observing in your private moments, like what are you doing? What are you thinking about? What are you putting your attention onto? And then maybe observing that and being like, that's not actually what I like. Why am I doing that? Fractal universe, you want to repeat the same thing, especially if you know it. But if you can actually understand the whole, it's like your color scheme, all of your, you got the 7 primary colors, 7 tones in a scale. You could write an actual song elegantly through an artistic, broader perspective, understanding that all of them are within you and creating balance. Because I think consciousness always is seeking balance in some form.
Oh, I agree that it always wants to seek equilibrium.
Yeah.
But there's something operating in the background that creates dissonance, like discord, disharmony, on purpose, so that
you can learn.
there is, because what does harmonics look like? Well, let's fuck everything up real quick. Let's turn up the volume and the static and let's see what we can concoct, because one of my most intriguing, top 3 most intriguing words is the word infinity. Infinity, it doesn't matter the substance that I hang out with. I get different shades of infinity. I always wind up collapsing and I surrender, because the thing of infinity is it's infinity. Everything that has and will and could ever occur is now. And maybe you can't see it, or you're not able to see it, or you have the ability to see it. You can see it if you really wanted to. But it's all happening there, right? The idea of time. Time is linear, and then that means that it's a human construct, just like all constructs, right? So you can be anywhere in the universe, infinite timelines. Egypt, the Chaldeans, the Niceans, like Jesus, and like all that stuff, the Atlanteans, it's actually occurring right now. It's like, but how? I can't see it. No, it happened already. It's like, no, it's all connected. It's the same freaking brain itself. It's like every single little neuron in this brain of infinite neurons contains a little reality.
Well, that's where myths come from.
Huh?
That's where the myths come from.
And you have to have these myths because these myths are the structures to story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the structures of these stories, you have your archetypes.
The seven.
You have your seven.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how the soul, which is the actuating cause, it's difficult to talk about the soul because the soul is not the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The one that speaks is the mind. Somehow, this thing that the best we could do, one of the things that we could do is call it the soul, right? This soul, whatever, is the actuating cause to spirit, the mind, Hermes, Mercury, the performer, thought, intelligence, right? Which generates reality. It imagines it. The imagination. It imagines it. It thinks it. So life is but a dream. It's happening in your head, whatever you want to call it. It's that little fucker, Mercury. He also has two little horns, which is interesting too. There's like something about that little fucker. It's like he's such a little devil. Because the joke is on him anyways. But back to what I was saying, which was, actually, you know what? Fuck it. So now that you guys I know you guys already know about the 3 principles, right? So one of the things that propelled me into this conversation with these fine women, and every time we hang out, it always comes back to this thing is, well, yeah, we're all doing operational alchemy in the lab. They've had their own examples of magic and stuff showing up, spirituality,
Shamanism,
right, and like
Sexual alchemy.
all the
distortions,
which is not a bad thing. They're just part of the fucking game itself. But like for me, I was never convinced, right? And I dare anyone convince me. Because convincing is manipulating someone to believe something. Nothing's ever convinced me. No one has ever... I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Like someone said when I was 16, here, smoke this blunt. It's super magical. They convinced me that it was going to be magical. I had PCP. I get that part. But like at the philosophical level, I've never actually been convinced of anything where I believed the thing and it became reality, or I understood reality because of it. So I became suspicious of it, or I did not. There's something in your story that I don't believe though. There's something missing. And every person has ever spoken to me after I don't know, woke up. I'm still fucking waking up.
He's woke.
Something was missing. I always heard what I call double talk. It's like, there's something missing in the thing that you're saying, though. And I would talk to people about it.
You would
These
say,
are my closest friends.
what are you actually saying?
Where are you coming from? What do you actually mean? Like, what are you saying? And what I would encounter was a reaction from my reality, who is my audience member, but I'm also their audience member.
You're also breaking the scene, in a sense. They're breaking character for a moment. You're asking them to break character, which is no-no. Which is a no-no. Right?
But the thing is, and that's been one of the cool things with having her in my life, with her knowledge of acting, is that I've been able to take what she knows and merge it with what I've been understanding for myself. Like, so understanding and knowing to me are very different. So understanding is intuition. Knowing is the story. Understanding is like, it's intuition, right? I don't know it, but I know it. Anyway, so there was an element missing to everything that everyone was always speaking to me about. It didn't matter what it was. And it got to the point where even we're working with substances like ketamine, for example, where someone is just speaking to me and it's notes, you know, like la I'm understanding everything they're saying, but there's something fucking missing. And it's always missing. Even when the little Lord Voldemort would speak to me, the moment that I moved to Taos, the moment that I started working for him, I was just like, there's something missing. What is it? What I started to realize, though, what I came to realize, I thought that the point was that there's something missing. The bigger point was, hey, can we talk about the one that's aware that there's something missing? Like, wait, what? Like, yeah. Who the fuck is the thing? What is the thing? Where is the thing? How is the thing? When will be the thing that is aware that there's something missing? I was like, what the fuck?
Unless you already know.
And, you know, that knowing deep inside, it's the wink, right? I had to forget what I am, who, what, where, when, what, blah, blah, blah. I had to forget I in order to come into the story. All I'm doing for me in my life is everything that I do in my life, I'm living two lives. One of them is the performance part, and the other one is picking up the pieces that I forgot. But they're also synonymous with each other, which is the idea of like, was there ever a separation, or was that a story? That's a story thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Am I actually separate from source? Am I actually different? Is there actually a you and me? Like, no, but yes, because that way you're you and I'm me, and that way we can have a story.
And this reality can exist.
And none of this happened because of something bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, loose, light, Lucifer was not cast down from heaven because he was a bad boy. It's just because I mean,
But
if you are God, divinity, or whatever you want to call it, you wouldn't miss a spot. It's not possible. You are the designer. You're the engineer of the thing, of totality. There's no way that you would have missed it. You are the creator God. So there's no there's no way. I'm working on my profanity. There is no way that something that is all could have missed a spot. This thing, light, loose, Lucifer, right? The first mind, as I call it, it brought light, consciousness, awareness to nothing, to the void, to the darkness. That's all it did, right? What good is a candle outside when the light, when the sun is beaming on a fucking hot July day? It doesn't do shit. Let the lights turn down. Let the sun go down. That little light, it does something, right? I mean, I can go on and on, but I just want to also like throw in there real quick that everything I'm doing is telling a story.
Well, why even tell a story? Like, what is the point of reading a story or experiencing it or resonating with myth? Where does it leave you?
Well, because I think that it's happening already.
This was not in the script.
Well, that's too bad.
No, I mean, I just gotta say, like, it's happening no matter how hard you try for it not to, right? It's the natural world. It's the law of vibration or rhythm, right? So things are gonna rise and they're gonna fall. So if you don't decide, it will decide for you. Or your mind unconsciously will project into the natural world and create it, right?
And it's interesting that you bring up nature, because I've come across the data that there are two worlds that exist. There's the natural world. This has shit to do with eating organic, free range, or whatever the fuck. That's nothing to do with that. Those are much deeper stories. Okay? Which nothing wrong with anything. But anyway, there is the natural world, the thing that was, right? It makes sense because you came out of a portal, a vagina, pretty soon a test tube, but you came out of a vagina, a portal, into a world that was already there. To me, that tells me that there's something very authentic about it. And then there's the man-made world. And if you look at the Bible, I mean, I know there's like Sumerian myths and Mesopotamian stuff. You know, man fell from heaven. Lucifer fell from heaven.
But
right?
God made man in his image.
Right? That's what happened. And God made man in his image, right? And created all these little intricate stories. Like, it's a fucking game. It's a game. And a game is meant to be played. But in order for you to play a game, which is meant to be played, and you're doing it because you signed up for it, there has to be a structure to the game. There has to be a story. There has to be rules. Right? Okay. Right back to the fucking story thing. And even without laboratory alchemy, I find myself you got the 7 metals. I'm doing metallic alchemy. Cool. I've extracted essential oils out of the 7 metals. Tonight we just took mercury. That was my last one, the scariest one. But there's so many more metals. There's so many more stories. So I sit there. Actually, God, I forgot.
Well, you didn't answer my question.
Oh, I thought I answered it. Maybe? I don't know. But he didn't. But
What?
the mind is the bridge, right? The mind is the bridge between the soul and the body. So we forget, though, that it's a bridge. And I think the Emerald Tablet says it so perfectly. You can know all effects if you know the cause. And the cause is the soul. But we start to look to the body, or like the external, the things that we see, to determine our story. But the actual creation of the story is coming up here, outside of this realm, right? So if you can actually get back to the actuating cause, which is running through all of nature, then the story is already happening. And it's like happening simultaneously in the mind, the body, and the soul. I think if we get caught up here, the mind has the ability to diverge from nature, right? And it's cool because, to your point, how could we appreciate coming back to it if we can't separate from it? It's like the whole point is to create a conflict, to create a rise in action, to create a climax, and then to create that delicious resolution, right?
Which is the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And what I forgot and I just remembered, the thing about the 2 worlds that exist simultaneously, the natural world and the man-made world. There were 2 trees in the Garden of Eden. Let's pretend that Eden was a story. Let's pretend that Eden was like an engineering lab. Computers.
Hero's journey.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's like you had the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. You hear all this crazy debacle about the tree of knowledge. You don't hear much about the tree of life. The reason you don't hear much about the tree of life is because ain't shit going on in the tree of life. There's no story. There's nothing going on. There's nothing going on in the tree of life. Why? Because it just is. There's no words. There's no mercury. There's no characters. There's no person, place, thing. There's no character, no plot, no conflict. There are no devices to. There's nothing. Looking at it, talking about it, because we already have story, mind, constructs. That shit sounds boring. The thing is, it's not boring because ain't nothing there. And no thing is still defining it. It's like smoking 5-MeO DMT. Void? That's still a word. Like, we're trying to... I'm not going to go there right now. But anyways, and then there's the man-made one. The tree of life, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. Knowledge, thinking, to think to accrue, to gather data, right? To construct, to make malleable, to devise storytelling. This is what it is. Left and right. We started with that. So this thing, life, the soul, right, which is the tree of life, split itself somehow and created this thing called left and right. Positive and negative. Good and evil. Light and dark. Black and white. And very controversial right now. And I'm sorry if we start to trend and we get canceled, but the two genders. The only two genders. Masculine and feminine aspects of everything. Once you have these three, right? So there's the Godhead and the left and the right, the thing in the middle. Now you start to tell / experience story or reality. Reality is comprised of story. There is a foundational story, which leads to many of the stories.
Right, the fractals. And then the 7, which we haven't really gotten into. Do you guys want to talk about the 7 a little bit?
I would like to talk about what is the purpose of a myth and what is the actual purpose of a story, right? Like, these things that exist amongst all humanity, these stories that have been told since the beginning of time, there's a reason why they exist. And they are to bring you, it is to bring you back to yourself and to bring you back in touch from where you came, right? It's to bring you back in touch with God, right? And from Joseph Campbell, what do we know as God, right?
The machine.
I'll read it.
You said the machine?
Yeah, Ex Machina.
These young ladies are the polarities of parts of my mind.
I can't stop thinking about the AI that's like learning right now. Like,
no.
ChatGPT. Okay, we'll just put that aside.
We're going to do another Instagram Live, and we'll talk
Okay.
about that. For now, we're going to stay on Earth, grounded. Go.
All right. So to bring it back, a god is a personification of a motivating power or a value system that functions in human life and in the universe, the powers of your own body and of nature. The myths are metaphorical of spiritual potentiality in the human being, and the same powers that animate our life animate the life of the world. So the reason why these myths and these legends and these stories exist is to bring you back in touch with the thing that you forgot. It's to help you become aware of where you're operating from and what story you're telling yourself, right? And so in that story, like where we're at right now is, with that said, alchemy, we use alchemy and the correspondence between the story and alchemy as the tool to develop your own personal story and transform the place where you're operating from.
Yeah, it's peekaboo too. It's like surprise.
And it almost seems like they are guidelines, but it almost seems as if they're guidelines that are taking you to a certain place because this is, it's supposed to be going in a certain way. But that's where I get uncomfortable and like, wait a minute. Then why the fuck am I here if we already know how the story's gonna play out? And it's like, oh, it's not that they're guidelines. It's that it's called pattern recognition. This stuff, these stories are embedded in our biology.
Right.
They're in our DNA.
Our atom.
There's these archetypes.
Atomic, proton, neutron, electron, and you got the 3.
You can't escape story. You can't escape definition. You can't escape everything has its place. Everything is in perfect alignment. Everything is going where it's going. It's not everything is going where it's supposed to be going. Everything is going the way that it's going. That's, to me, the totality of perfection, which is this moment right now. It has been, but time doesn't exist. It will, time doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
It is, because time doesn't exist, right? So throughout all these stories, you can start. Here's the thing. I didn't feel compelled to be in a rerun, in a repetitive thing. Because if infinity is infinite, that means that all possibilities of anything that could ever be, will be, it's happening right now, then my story is one that isn't anywhere else. Because I'm one piece of infinity, as everyone is. So there's something about you existing, being alive, being conscious, whatever it is. It's your unique piece, your unique facet of this bigger gem that is infinity.
Drop in the ocean.
And it makes you feel so small, but that shit doesn't fucking matter either, because you're actually part of the bigger picture. Without you, without your story, all of it collapses. It cannot exist without your story being part of it. But, okay, cool, so now we're special. And that's great, because I used to think that none of us are fucking special. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're all fucking special. Every single one of us. That doesn't sound like that. But, anyway, so this thing with the storytelling, it's been happening already. We've been predisposed and indoctrinated into stories. And what you believe, this is quantum physics, right? What you believe, what you are looking at.
Yeah, your consciousness affects matter.
That's what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the most important stories of all the stories is the one that you tell yourself.
Right.
And we use the tool of alchemy to change that and to bring you back in touch with the thing that you are. The thing that Hermes forgot, which is that you are a drop in the ocean and you are a piece of God.
That nothing is actually sick. That there is no disease. You know, that like if you can hold that into your attention, then it actually begins to alter the physical, mental, and you connect to the soul, right?
Think about being sick.
Yeah.
That's a story, right? If you have, and I know that this is intense because
It's a radical idea.
there's people who have been told that what they're experiencing in their story is cancer, for example. Okay. It's still a story, though. It's not making it better or worse. It's just a fact. It is a story. Your body is experiencing something, and some other body told you what the problem is. Story, story, story. It's just stories. I'm not saying that it makes it better or worse. What I'm saying is like, it's stepping out. This is red tail hog medicine, by the way. This is like bigger picture. Stepping out of the frame, out of the box, and looking at things for a second.
I want to read all the comments.
You guys want to read all the comments?
No,
I'm reading all the
keep
comments.
I
This
mean,
is
I
great.
think that okay, through the lens of alchemy,
Y'all distracted me.
everything is mental, right? So something can be experienced through the body, authentically through the body, and it's part of that concept of mentality, right? So there can be a thought form in the mental universe that you could technically catch or receive or come out of like dissonance or harmony or wellness. And I think it's like maybe an uncomfortable concept to consider that you are harmony itself. But it's not to say that anyone who is sick, it's not their fault. It's not your fault that you come out of harmony or you're into dissonance. Your soul may actually have chosen that for your path. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, think harder and then you'll be well. But to just toy with the notion that it is an illusion. I mean, this is an illusion.
Some people didn't come here to get better.
Why are you reading the comments, Raven?
No, I'm saying some people didn't come here to get better.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's part of the process. It's part of the experience, right?
A lot of, well, there's a concept that I've heard a lot is that alchemy is a map, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you know how to read the map, you can navigate where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And to just tie it back to squaring the circle and the archetypes,
The
like
Philosopher's Stone, right?
Do you want to go ahead and go through the 7 actors?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, it's like, between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, you got 7 archetypes, 7 days of the week, 7 metals. We got the server, which we've associated with Saturn, which, you think about someone who's at service, often they have experienced hardship themselves. It's like the wound, and some aspect it is the wounded healer, right?
To be in service of others,
yeah,
which is where you start and
often have gotten sick. I mean, like I would consider myself part of that. I'm like super lucky in many ways, but I've been hospitalized more times than I can count, out of no conscious thought or intention. But it's given me a level of compassion and empathy and gratitude for every moment that I have. It's like, and this is story. Like I could choose to see it as this burden, this rock, this weight. Yeah. And I've discovered through trial and error that wasn't helping me. I wasn't driving energy from that paradigm. And I know, everyone's in their own path, but
we think that would correspond to Saturn because that type of pain grounds you into reality,
death,
to
time.
Be in service of others.
Yeah. And then moving over to the artisan, which is kind of a tricky one because I think it can, I think it can correspond. It's the creator, like you can think about Mercury or even Jupiter, but we were thinking of Venus because Venusian heart energy, it is creative. I mean, that archetype is also the female organism of giving birth,
and creates things to
pregnancy,
be beautiful.
Yeah, creative. It's that feminine aspect that is within all of us. And the artisan obviously it can be within many, many different roles, different jobs, different, in the parent and in the mother,
It's like the artisan expresses the beauty of life.
Yeah. And then the third one is a scholar, so we associated that with Mercury, which is its prime objective is to learn and to understand. And Hermes, who is the guy behind Hermetics and Alchemy, that is the mind attempting to understand itself. It is always attempting to push the edge or go into the liminal space between what is and what could be. And that's why, we associate with that Lucifer too, archetype is being cast down because he wanted to go further. He wanted to see what would happen if we separated from being one thing.
And the scholar is really a master of the inputs and the outputs of information. Mm-hmm. So that's why we felt that was really the Mercury archetype because of the scholar's ability to process information and repeat it back.
Mm-hmm. And and then moving to the next one is we call the sage. Thank you.
Some water.
Water. Thank
Cheers.
you.
This is water.
That's okay.
Cheers for the water. The sage is next. On the sage, we associated with Jupiter, which is to entertain. So, which also I would still say there's a little overlap with Mercury as well.
The sage is also the professor.
Yeah, there's the professor, but there's also, the performer archetype, the actor, the guy with the funny hat and the bells on his feet, and a little mini version of him in his hand.
I heard a quote once from, I think it was Sage of Popham, where he stated Jupiter as walking the spiritual path with grounded feet.
Walking the spiritual path with grounded feet.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like Jupiter to me can also be very ungrounded. Like he's definitely seeking an experience, right? Kind of that adventure seeker, that Sagittarian energy, the like going out into the world. Sometimes I think of Jupiter. I mean, to be fair, all 7 of these, they have a shadow and they have a light. You know, they have their darker aspect, right? And then they have their exalted aspect, which in the lab, you know, you're purifying, you're separating, you're purifying, and you're recombining those 3 aspects. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Jupiter. And then the next is the warrior, which is, I think, naturally Mars. We've been talking a lot about the warrior archetype because I think, like, in its shadow, the warrior is in survival. But if you actually evolve that energy, it is the martial artist. So there's an art to that Martian energy. It's like dancing in this elegant way, I suppose. And also there really is no aim, even though it's a very like young energy, like it's moving out. Like it's chasing something, it's hunting something down. But there is like a kind of meditative quality within that, which, I don't know, we've been talking about that lately. I find that really
a true warrior,
it's unmoved.
it doesn't kill unless it needs to.
And a true warrior is a healer. And a true healer is a warrior.
Yeah.
Which you don't hear stories about because most people that I've encountered are healers. They want to approach things from this very gentle, passive, even if there's the polarity of passiveness, there's like this idea of light, you know, flourish.
We call it the love and light crew.
And all this stuff. And
it's giving. It's always like giving, like it's almost like birthing. But almost like, I think to create health, as a healer, sometimes you have to kill. Sometimes you have to cut things out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be destructive.
Yeah, some viruses, unless you are a really skilled engineer, geneticist, some viruses can't be... No, viruses can't be played with. You can't sit with a virus that is... By the way, I believe viruses are very mercurial in nature. Something that replicates or reflects your genetics, your DNA. Anyway, so that it can be seen. But if you want to get rid of a virus or a tumor or something, sometimes it comes to the point where you have to cut it. And there are individuals who are healers who won't go there because they don't understand where they're operating from is, if I do this, I'm no longer healing. It's like the healer and the warrior, the creator and destroyer, right? Life and death. These are polarities of the thing itself that are necessary in a certain time. So certain things need to be, you can nurture and nourish. Say, you're getting better, you know, maybe you need more vitamin C, maybe you should go into ketosis, maybe you know, or
if it's from you say, stop playing games.
We gotta cut it off. Yeah, and that's the thing, it's like, people are so, everyone wants to talk about, you know, the higher echelons, the higher levels, the higher frequencies, and the higher vibrations. No, you can't have one without the other. It's not possible. And not just me, but what we're sharing, this isn't, I don't care to give off the vibe or the frequency that you should listen to what we're saying and this is the way to XYZ. Not at all. I'm letting them know right now too, live, that I don't care to be someone who, look at the world that's going on, right? Everyone wants to choose a side. Someone might have, this guy might have the answer to this thing, how this thing should go, how life should be, and blah, 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 blah. I don't feel that way at all. And we don't feel that way at all. This is not a spirituality. This is not a cult. We almost got caught up in some cult shit. Like, this is not a cult.
Not a political
this is not
party.
something to, like,
not a.
We're not try to force you to believe.
this
in
is not a
anything.
left or right thing. Because in essence, at the end of the day, what I'm experiencing is there's so many stories going on everywhere. I don't care anymore. Like, I don't give a fuck. So now that I have given all the fucks that I can give and I have no more to give, where am I at? It's where we're at right now, which is there is no right or wrong. There is no correct or incorrect. You shouldn't be or should follow anyone or anything. We're all magicians. We're all God. We're all doing this thing. But that thing, that thing, the I, is expressing through everything, through all of us. To see how many ways can it be and interact with itself. And what we're doing with alchemy and story is our expression of that one thing. And I know that it's very easy to go, well, yeah, it sounds like a religion. It's starting to sound like a cult.
No.
Like, it's starting to sound like a clique. It's like, no, man, like, you're going to breathe air regardless, right? You want some extra hydrogen in your air, you know, you can buy cans of hydrogen. Like, you can alter your reality. What we're doing right now with Materia is we're like I don't want to say an option.
It's
like
a reflection.
Flavor. Yeah, we're a flavor.
It's a reflection and a sharing of what we've been contemplating and the parallels that we've been drawing together, and realizing that because the mind does need context, it's really helpful in your journey to pair the myths and the legends and the stories with your alchemical processes in the laboratory, because it helps you make sense of things. And then when you make sense of things, you can understand it even deeper.
And I wouldn't say that anything is needed, but there's always room for more if you want it. It's not, I'm not satisfied. It's what else can happen. Is this just it? Do I just settle for this? Or can there be more? But not because I want to. I'm curious if there is more. If there is more, yeah, let's see what we can do. And what I'm finding is that for me, being alive at this particular moment in space and time, the convergence of AI is happening. That's, to me, I'm going to start all over again. Okay? The fact that AI is happening, it's already here. And the global fear of that thing and excitement of it. But then we got the conversation of alchemy and story. I am so fucking elated beyond to be here in this world right now, in this reality, because just when the internet started, everyone was freaking out. Most people were freaking out. People saw the benefits. People were like, no, this is just another fad, you know? It wasn't like a George Foreman grill. It became a thing, like a structure, you know? And the thing with AI is changing everything. And if it's going to change the reality that we're experiencing right now,
But it's still an expression of the one thing.
it is. And I mean, does this mean that alchemy gets put back into an even dustier old cupboard? Like, no. It's the thing itself. It gets new shoes, new sunglasses, new nails, you know what I mean? Like, it gets perfume, like, it's cars, and like, it just keeps evolving. But it's the same thing experiencing itself again and again and again in infinite manners, in infinite forms. And right now, what we're getting into right now, what's happening in society, what's happening to me, what's happening to us, I think it's freaking awesome. The conversation of AI, the conversation of alchemy. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, there should be books about this stuff. There should be, fiction, science fiction novels about alchemists.
I don't know,
working with
because we're
computer.
talking about something that can't actually, like, it's an oscillatory field. It's vibrational. So, like, there really isn't anywhere to go. It's going to be repetitive. It's going to sound like a meditation. It's going to sound like you're kind of, like, swirling around the same thing. Like, I think my sister said this analogy. It's like if a mountain, you're climbing around the edge, and you go around and you're slowly going up higher, and each time you see the same thing, but it's a higher up perspective. But you're still going up, and you keep revisiting the same view. You know what I mean? Like, there really isn't anywhere to arrive to.
Until you've reached individuation.
It's true, and then we have nothing to say.
Well, no, we do have
Do we?
things to say,
Oh, yeah?
because you've reached your point of individuation, and then that is when you go out into society and share with everybody what you've learned.
And then you levitate out.
No,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
share.
Yeah.
Because, like Joseph Campbell says, the yogi studies, and the point is to go into the light, and he never comes back. But what is the point of that? And how does that redeem society in any way? It doesn't. The whole point of this is to finish your hero's journey so that you can become your individuated self, and you can take what you've learned and bring that back into society and share it with people.
And it doesn't mean that if you don't do it this way or do it in a certain way that it won't happen. It's happening anyway. My point is, wouldn't you like to enjoy the ride and actually have some sort of input
And be the
and
author.
affect something? Become conscious, aware that God needs me just as much as I need God. Because if God, let's pretend the story, the story of I'm the ego. There's stories where it would be inflicted that I'm the ego, right? So if I'm the ego and there's a God, it's like, well, then why the fuck am I here? Should I kill myself? Should I destroy myself? Should I off myself? Like, what should I do? Should I, what should I do? It's like, I don't know. It's this weird little dance, this weird, strange balance between the above and below. That God needs me just as much as I need God. I exist because of God, but God exists because I called it God. I mean, this is high magic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's taking ownership over your story, not because you have to or you should. It's not, again, like I said earlier, I guess this is an option. This is one thing that you can do of the many things that you could do in this world. And with all that said,
Should we share the real reason why we're here?
I want to get to the point of, and I feel like a little weird about it even to this very moment, because I didn't want to do this for a long time. I've been asked for years now when
Oh, hold
will
on.
there be?
That's right. Last two archetypes. The moon is the priest and the priestess. The sun is the king and the queen.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What was that?
No. We don't have to get to it. It's
Okay,
we've
cool.
been on for about
So-
2 hours now. Thank you all for staying.
Wait,
Now for the big
Now
surprise.
for the real reason we're here.
I'm gonna get a director. I promise. It's probably gonna be Chat GPT in the background because, anyways, I love you guys. But, yeah, this thing has been asked for a long time, and I didn't want to do it because there's so many other people that are doing it, teaching alchemy. I didn't want to teach it because there's so many books. You have the internet. Now we have AI. Like, you can figure shit out. Like, well, why am I being asked by people to teach the things that I know? It's like, well, you can fucking find it. You know, Bartlett and this guy and that guy. It's all out there, and I've heard so many different types of responses to that, and I can only push reality, God, away from me, but so much until it actually starts to hurt, and it's been weighing down on me. My biggest weight in my life is boredom. Boredom can kill me. That's my kryptonite, and I've been getting bored, and I started to realize, wait a minute. As I'm being born and dying, more people are still showing up. Teach the thing. It's like, well, I don't want to be like this dude that's teaching people shit like I know something, because I don't know shit. It's like, okay, cool. So perhaps there's an umbrella, and we all looked at each other and realized, wait a minute, look at all our fucking notebooks. Every time we take, mushrooms, LSD, and do ketamine, and then MDA and MDMA, and hang out, and they talk about these things.
I don't
what
do
the-
drugs.
Okay, 'cause she's an actress. I'm sorry. Excuse me. She doesn't either. I'm the guy. I'm
It's just him.
the Neosha. Anyways, anyway, through all these adventures that we've had together, it just made sense. And they brought it up to me, and then I brought it up to them. Like, hey, I don't want to do this by myself because it's not about me. It's about a conversation that the three of us have been having. And the conversation actually extends further than the three of us. But wouldn't it make sense? From the 1, the 3, the 4, the 7, and the 12.
The 12.
But yeah. Anyway, the culmination of this whole Instagram Live is that we have been realizing for ourselves that we've been articulating our realities through storytelling and alchemy, laboratory alchemy, and everything else in between. There's a lot of things in between that. And with that said,
we're hosting a course.
Yeah, we're hosting a course.
We're hosting a course.
So this June of 2023, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we are going to be opening 10 tables?
10 spots.
10 spots to 10 students. And yeah, I'm still learning to get over myself because the idea of students and shit, because like you're my teacher.
I got you.
They're really helping me out.
So just so it is clear, we are going to be hosting a 5-day course during the week of the summer solstice in June. And Raven is going to be the main professor, and Christine will be giving meditations and breath work in between each of the informational segments. So we're going to be marrying the story of everything that we spoke of today. So the alchemy and story, what Hermes forgot, how it applies to the mind, and how to use this as a tool of navigation throughout the entire course. So please, if you are interested in that, continue to follow us, because we're going to be doing a second Instagram Live going deeper into the
Fractals.
details of what's going to be involved in this 5-day course.
Roger! Japan! Anyways, sorry, that's my homie.
So stay tuned for further details, and thank you to everybody who joined us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. We could go so deep.
I love you guys. That was
Yeah.
really, yeah, we did it. We fucking did it. Get closer. We fucking did it.
We did it.
We fucking did it. Mwah. Love you guys. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Peace.
Bye.